Hello and good evening, Dice Tower. Lovely to see you this evening, and it is Memorial Day in the United States, a time when we reflect on the men and women of the U.S. military. And it also is a very big day for a couple of our Dice Tower family. It's birthdays. I don't know if you're aware of this. We have two Dice Tower birthdays today, so I want to just wish a happy birthday to Mark Streed and Roy Canada. Happy birthday, guys. Hope you've had a lovely, lovely day. And I hope all of you are having a lovely day. I'm just flying solo tonight. Yes, I know, typecasting, but yeah, it's a holiday and I didn't want to try to pull somebody in on a day where it might be difficult. And so I'm just going to be flying solo. Happy to talk to you all and answer questions and just have a nice hour together. So looking forward to seeing who's here in the chat with me tonight. I've got the first question coming from Robert Christ. Would you rather get eaten by a crocodile or a boa constrictor? Wow. That's a difficult question. I don't know. This is one where I'm going to try to default to the choice that's not here, which is neither. But I suppose if I had to pick one, I would go with the crocodile because I would imagine it would be over more quickly. I hope anyway. But yeah, that's a way to get things started off. Let's talk about getting maimed and eaten by wild animals. Why not? Why not? Okay. Well, so apparently I was not the most popular choice. I see a lot of people going with boa constrictors. So, hey, what are you gonna do? I don't think either one is particularly pleasant, I would say, but that's all right. So we've got a whole bunch of people in here. We've got Dead Squirrel, William McGinnis. Hello, everybody. William, is there a guest? No, just me. Just me. I'm sorry. But I'm sure we'll still have a good time. Hey, Coraloo. Gator Dave. Mike is more than host enough for us. Oh, you're hitting me in the feels, Gator Dave. Thank you very much. Thank you. Hey, Rainer. How's it going? Man, we've got a lot of great people here tonight. A lovely way to spend an evening. Coraloo. Hey, Mike, do you have any cool gamer names like Tom uses Tomrick? I don't. I feel like I need to, though. I feel like now if I'm going to be part of the Dice Tower crew, I need to come up with some type of a cool name. Although if I think about it, I think only Tom has the cool gamer name. Well, no, Eric has his. I guess if you go with the minis, kind of those minis that they made, Eric Summoner for Zombicide, Black Plague, where he summons. And then Z, there's a couple of minis made with him where I think they had plays off of his name, but I don't have one. Maybe one of these days, you never know. Maybe a mini will be made, and they'll come up with some cool name, or I'll have to think of some cool name. So I don't have a cool gamer name yet, but I'll think of one. I'll try to think of one. Coraloo again. I forgot the U.S. has a holiday. What did you do today, Mike? Well, this chat is about positivity, so I'm not going to dwell. But I'll just say this has been a remarkably long day, a really, really long day, and so if I appear a little bit out of sorts, please have patience with me. But the first part of the day dealt with my wife having to go to the emergency room. So not that that's funny. It's the opposite of funny. We got through that and everything is as good as can be right now. So we are just trying to end the day on a positive note. And so the thing I'm most looking forward to today is happening right now, as a matter of fact. So we're gonna end this day with some lovely, lovely chat. So let's see. Gator Dave, what is your favorite war or war-themed film? Well, this is a difficult question because I think it's hard to talk about favorites for something that is devastating. I think most people can agree that war is something that we would all rather avoid at all costs if possible. But being a history teacher for so many years, I can answer what wars I most enjoy teaching about, I suppose, just because of things I felt were particularly interesting or honestly, I think World War One is a war that I appreciated teaching about because so few of the students really seem to have much context for World War One. It seems like a lot of time is spent talking, understandably, about World War Two, and then here in the United States, Vietnam, and the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, of course, are important topics in the United States. But I feel like World War One is a topic that doesn't get covered well enough in the U.S. history books, at least in my opinion. I don't feel like they do maybe as good a job, at least across the board. Some books do better than others, but I think some books kind of gloss over that transitionary period between World War One and World War Two, where really, the end of World War One is you can draw a direct line to the beginning of World War II. So I suppose that would be my choice. I wouldn't call it a favorite, but probably the one I was most interested in teaching and learning more about. Okay. Steph Stargirl, any upcoming solo games on your radar? Always. So just recently, actually just today, as a matter of fact, I wouldn't say it's on my radar because I've already played it a number of times, but I just put up a review today for Raiders of Scythia, which is the kind of a new standalone game by Shem Phillips of Garphill Games. And it's built off of Raiders of the North Sea system, and I'm really, really enjoying that. But as far as upcoming games that I'm looking forward to, I'm looking forward to the Marvel United game. I pledged that one. I'm looking forward to trying out the new Too Many Bones Splice and Dice. We just got that in the studio recently, so I'm hoping to get a chance to play that eventually and kind of put that through its paces. What else? There's a bunch of stuff, but again, my brain is not that it's ever sharp necessarily, but it's particularly dull tonight. And I'm getting dive bombed by small bugs because I put on a box light and they just come barreling at me. So if you see me flinching, it's these small bugs. James Hamilton. What genre of game did you originally stay away from, but then came to enjoy? This is interesting because you're talking about a whole genre here. I think what you would call the Ameritrash games would probably be what I would say, but I like more of the hybrid where they've kind of got those hallmarks of the American style games where there's perhaps a lot of dice rolling and a lot of theme integration. But now when you've got those with a little bit of Euro mechanics to kind of hold the mechanisms together, that's what I really like. The genres that I tend to avoid are party games, although there are some terrific party games, but that's just not usually in my wheelhouse. I've talked in the past about how I'm intimidated to some extent by war games, and so I haven't really spent a lot of time investigating war games, but I feel like I'm slowly opening myself up to playing some of the more introductory war games. I have a lot of people that are offering to teach and talk to me about them. So yeah, I don't know. I think that I'm trying to become more and more open to going outside of my comfort zone in general. I think that's a healthy thing to do. And, in this position I'm in the Dice Tower now, I'm exposed to a lot more games. And I think that it's, to be honest, part of my job to explore a wider swath of games than maybe I would if I were just playing, with a regular game group. I think that it behooves me to be as knowledgeable about as many types of games as possible. And so that would mean that I'm playing games that maybe I would have avoided in the past. Mike, would you rather use a pen or a fork? Rainier, I feel like there's more to this question than I am picking up, because I have no idea what this means. It depends on what I'm doing. If I'm eating a lovely meal, then I think I would prefer a fork. If I had a lovely plate of chicken parmesan in front of me, I don't feel like a pen would do a whole lot for me. If I were desperate, I suppose I could use the sharp end of the pen, and stab the chicken, but that would be a mess. That's not going to be a pleasant experience. However, if I wanted to write some notes, a fork, I don't know. So an intriguing question. I'm not sure that I did it justice, but I did the best I could. Nick says, Mike can ask himself questions. I ask myself questions all the time. I even answer my own questions from time to time. I rarely get the answer that I'm looking for, but I always give it a shot. Okay, here we go. So let's talk about the font color situation. Look, I'm telling you this, it's always something. It's always something. For a while there, it was my microphone. And I think that I've somewhat got the microphone taken care of. Now it's the font color. And I'm not sure. Let's see if I can mess with, okay. All right, the Mr. E, here we go. We're gonna get this figured out once and for all. So it's going against a bit of a dark background. So I'm thinking, I'm afraid to go yellow. That seems a little bit too, let's see how this looks. Now, actually, I kind of like yellow. I think yellow works. As long as I'm not wearing a yellow shirt, and I don't know that I own many yellow shirts. Is this better, the Mr. E? Can I get a thumbs up if this is good? Or just say something in the chat to let me know that you're happy with the color? Because I understand that font color, it's an issue. Zod10, what is the best solo variant of a board game you've played? Well, I guess I want to make sure I'm answering the question you're actually asking, because this isn't exactly asking me what my favorite solo board game is. If you're asking what my favorite solo board game is, I did a top 30, I think it was, video of my solo games here recently, and I'm going to stick with what my choice was then, which is Raiders of the North Sea with all of the expansions added. However, the best solo variant, it's tricky because there are so many really, really good solo variants. I'll tell you the variant that I'm really impressed with right now. I don't know that I would be comfortable in saying it's the best yet because I need to explore it some more. But I've been playing the new bots for Root, what's called the Clockwork expansion. I'm going to be doing a review of that soon, and so I've been playing through the different Root bots, and those are fantastic. I'm giving away a little bit of where my review at least is going to be heading, but I've been remarkably impressed with. I guess what is most impressive to me are solo variants that can replicate different interaction points. Certain games I think are easier to have a solo variant for because, if it's a worker placement game, you can block spots, and that's usually enough-ish. I mean, you're going to do more, but you're blocking spots, maybe taking resources away, things along those lines. But when you have games that have combat or area control or things along those lines, that's when it's really impressive to me a solo variant can pull it off. So the Root bots are an example. Another one that I did a review of recently that I think is fantastic is Mezzo. The solo variant for Mezzo is really, really good. And before I saw it, I was just wondering how in the heck are they going to turn this into a solo game, because it's all about area majority And there's a lot of direct conflict and competition, and they pulled it off beautifully. Coraloo. Mikey D wouldn't work, right? No. Or Mickey D. No, I don't know that works as a gamer nickname. Mickey, I don't know that Mickey suits me. I've never been a Mickey. I've mostly been a Mike. My family generally calls me Michael. I answer to both. I've always said I don't have a preference, but I think, truth be told, most people call me Mike, and that's probably what I feel. I think of myself as Mike. When my family calls me Michael, it still sounds normal and natural, but I think of myself as Mike. So Mickey D, nah. I'll tell you the truth. The most common nickname, if you can call it a nickname, growing up was most people just like to call me DiLisio. I think it's a fun name. Maybe not to sound arrogant. I do like my last name, and I think people just like saying it. So they would always be, hey, DiLisio, or D. Sometimes just D would also be a nickname. When I was teaching, Mr. D oftentimes was where they would go, because DiLisio is not a name that they always would get correct. Gator Dave likes Mike Dill. Maybe. I actually had a friend that used to call me Mike Dill, actually, or just Dill. Jim Pridgeon, I bet Dan could come up with a bunch of good names for you. He has. He's come up with a bunch of names. Now, it's when you put that good modifier in there that I have to take issue. Dan comes up with names. I don't know that I would call them good. Let's see, cruel, vitriolic, profane, obscene, sure, all of those. But good, maybe not. He keeps trying, though. Bless his heart. Fred Perro, did you get a chance to play Warp's Edge? Should be out soon. Lots of solo buzz. No, I've got the prototype for it here. I've had the prototype for it here, and shame on me, I have not even gotten it out of the box yet. I need to. It is getting some buzz now, and so I would like to get that out and give it a shot. I will soon. It's just it hasn't quite made its way up the queue yet, but I'll get there. I'll get there eventually. William McGinnis, Mike, it's delivery, DiLisio. Yeah, actually, that is. I did get a real kick out of that. It's a play off that whole "it's not delivery, it's DiGiorno," the frozen pizza, the frozen pizza thing. And we were doing some video, some Dice Tower video. I can't remember which. And somebody said it. I don't know if it was Tom or Z. Or someone maybe in the chat even, I don't remember, but they said it's not delivery, it's DiLisio, and I got a kick out of that. Everyone seemed to. So, yeah, that would work if you were playing a pick up and deliver game, I guess. If we were doing a little Cinque Terre maybe, which is my favorite pick up and deliver game. There's other. I actually love pick up and deliver as a mechanic. I think it's underappreciated, but I also don't know if it's pick up and deliver. I always default to pick up and deliver, but I hear a lot of people say pick up and delivery. I don't know what's correct. I know the one that I always default to is pick up and deliver, but I'm sure you'll let me know in the chat if you think that I'm wrong. A Fatal Paper Cut. What is your favorite multiplayer game to play multi-handed solo? Do co-ops count? Because they'd almost have to, right? So I think about co-ops here when you ask this question, and I guess the thing that jumps to mind in this case would be the City of Kings. That's one where you have to play with multiple characters, and so I tend to play 2-character City of Kings, and I like that quite a bit. It's tricky when you've got too many characters to control. I think sometimes you get lost in the administration of running those solo bots or characters, and you lose some immersion. And there's a bug on my head. And so some are better than others. I know that even the simplest games like Zombicide Black Plague, you have to usually run 6 characters to do that. And I tend to avoid that if I can. Dead Squirrel. Which game has the best drafting mechanism for solo play? Oh man, this is tough. This is tough. Because there's some good ones that are I'm losing track of. Because I remember talking about a couple of solo games that handle the drafting mechanic really well. And for the life of me, it is escaping me. Believe it or not, there was this small card game, essentially a card game by Steve Finn, the Dr. Finn's Games, the designer of Biblios. He's most known for Biblios. This little game called The Little Flower Shop. And I seem to remember that had a really cool drafting mechanism for solo play. But there's another bigger game that for the life of me, I cannot, and I'm looking around right now because I'm trying to remember what it was. And it's escaping me. But there are some solo games that have drafting that are handled really well, because that's a hard thing to pull off, right? Obviously, the idea behind drafting generally is you've got a deck of cards or a hand of cards. You keep one and you pass them to other players on the left or right. And so it's hard to pull that off solo, but a couple of games have done it quite well. TZ Gardner, it was nice meeting you on the cruise. Thank you for that. Did you learn any new games on the cruise? Yes, I did. I learned a little game. I want to say it was by Japanime, but I could be wrong here. Z taught me, and I believe it was called Demon Worker, this little worker placement game. And I seem to remember, I enjoyed it. Now, the fact that I don't remember a tremendous deal about it, I guess, says a little bit. It's not a game that I would, I didn't seek out to try to get a copy of it, if that says anything. But it was a fun game. But generally speaking, on the cruise, I was busy, either working in the library or doing other things around the ship. I did get to teach some games. I actually taught quite a few games, and I really enjoyed that. I taught some people Scythe, and I love teaching people Scythe. That's always so much fun, especially when they like the game, and they seem to like the game. Maybe they were being nice because they know I like it, but they seem to like it. So I did a lot of teaching, but I think the only new game was that Demon Worker game. Juan Pablo Giraldo, Mike, who is the most interesting character in the board game industry? I suppose it depends on what you mean by interesting. I've met a lot of interesting people, I would say. I work with some very interesting people. I think one of the reasons why the Dice Tower, I think, is popular is because you've got people like Tom, and you've got people like Z and Roy, and so I work with some very interesting people, legitimately interesting people that I actually enjoy spending time with, and that's another reason why the current situation has been so difficult, not being able to spend as much time with everyone, at least face to face. So they are all interesting. I have, I'm just trying to think. I've met some great board game designers, and I've met other media people. This is too hard, Juan. I'm sorry. I think, look, it's almost somewhat become a bit of a cliche, and I know I've said it a number of times, but I'm gonna repeat it because I think it bears repeating. One of the most special things to me about being involved in board gaming is the people that I've met through this hobby. You have people that you vibe with and don't, no matter what you're doing. But I have met so many interesting, engaging, just great people playing board games that it's hard for me to narrow it down. You can even throw Dan Hughes in there if you want to. You might substitute interesting for another word. I won't. You can use your imagination. All right. Chris Hahn asks, Have you found a new game group as cool as the one you left behind in Indy? The short answer is no. A lot of special people in Indianapolis, and talking about interesting people that I've met in board gaming. Many of them are up there, and I miss you all. And the sooner that I can see you all again, the better. I was really, really lucky. Man, I've been lucky here recently. So let's reflect. Mike DiLisio now will reflect for a moment on some positive things in his life. I have met some incredible people here in Florida that have welcomed me and have allowed me to kind of infiltrate into their game groups before all of this went down, of course. But in Indianapolis, there were just so many great people that I interacted with on a regular basis and played games with and talked about games with. And so I definitely appreciate all of them and hope to see them again soon. Nick Wagner, Mikey, what's the DiLisio? That's pretty good, because then you can go into a Seinfeld thing. What's the DiLisio with rock candy? Is it candy? Is it rocks? Anyway, I don't know. That's my Seinfeld. I don't know if he's done a rock candy bit. If he hasn't, that definitely sounds like a Seinfeld bit. Okay, so let's see here. Robert Christs asks, how do you organize your game shelf? Games playable at a certain number, degree of difficulty, mechanics? Robert, all of those sound very, very organized, and they sound logical, and they sound intelligent, and they sound like the polar opposite of how I organize my game shelf. To be honest, I think using the word organize as relates to my game shelf would be a bit of a misnomer. Now, they are not a mess. I will say that. But they're not organized well. They're not organized by publisher. They're not organized by genre. They're basically organized by what best fits in this particular cubby. I keep all of my... That's not exactly true. Like, I keep my Ryan Lockett games all together. I tend to keep like the Come games together. I've got my Stegmeyer games all together. So I guess the closest thing I would say is that most of my designers are somewhat together, although I have Knizia games all over the place. But yeah, mostly by designer, although I need to do better. I don't have my Cathala games all in one place. And so I don't organize my game shelf terribly well. I need to work on that. A thing to work on. Jim Pridgeon. Did you see They Shall Not Grow Old, the World War I doc from Peter Jackson? I haven't, Jim. It's on my list. I actually saw, I think it's on Netflix now or Hulu. It's on one of the streaming services that I subscribe to. And I absolutely am going to. I want to be in the right frame of mind for that. And just lately I haven't been in the mood to kind of go down that road. But I absolutely am looking forward to it. It is something that I've heard really good things about, and so I absolutely will do that. Nick Wagner says, my favorite war movie takes place during World War I, Paths of Glory, with Kirk Douglas, and I haven't seen that, actually. Hey, Jordan, what's going on? On the most recent Dice Tower podcast, Tom said Magical Athlete is the most stupid game he loves. What's yours? Wow, I think I do like some stupid games. I'm looking around to kind of spark some memories. Stupid games. I like a lot of silly games, I guess. It's hard calling a game stupid. I guess Magical Athlete is a good choice because that game is kind of ridiculous. Here's my answer. I don't necessarily agree that it's a stupid game, but I think some people might because it doesn't use a lot of modern gaming mechanics. It's kind of old school because there's a lot of like D6 dice rolling. But Dragoon, I think Dragoon would be my choice. I have a soft spot in my heart for that game. You could probably call it kind of a stupid game because it's not terribly strategic, and like I said, it's really mostly about chucking a couple of D6s and moving these kind of. I have the metal edition, so these kind of over the top golden and silver pieces around a map, and just trying to blow each other up and blow fire on each other. I think I would go with Dragoon. We've got some Icelanders in the chat tonight. Hello to Iceland. I would love to go to Iceland at some point. Jordan is talking about the black on the black ground in my shirt. I'm going to choose to ignore that. Ryan Tosher, favorite games to play with your wife. I actually had Tiffany on the daily chat a little while back, but and I think we mentioned a couple of these, but we both really like Blue Moon City. We like to play Waterdeep, Lords of Waterdeep with each other. We like to play Yggdrasil together. Those are probably the kind of the big three. There's others, but those are kind of the big three that we tend to go to. Gator Dave. What is the one food or dessert that tests your self-control? Well, there are many, but I think, my go-to if I'm gonna kind of just throw caution to the wind and eat whatever dessert I want, it's gonna be an ice cream, but it's gonna be a good ice cream, like a good. Well, ideally it would be gelato. If I can get myself around some homemade gelato, it doesn't to me get much better than that. Gelato, frozen custard are kind of 1-2 on the list of things that if I wasn't worried about eating something bad for me, those would be the ones I would go to. I used to not have as much self-control, and so I would eat those quite a bit. Nowadays, I have gone back. But if you're going to go even like lower on the scale, those are like decadent and things that you would do for like a big treat. The thing that I used to probably eat too much of because it was cheap and easily available would be Dairy Queen Blizzards. I was kind of a sucker for the Reese's Blizzards from Dairy Queen. It's been a long time since I've had one, but I used to love me some Blizzards. Mountain Ponies, thank you for the solo reviews lately. Great addition to the regular content. Thank you. I appreciate that. We've got a lot. I'm telling you that we solo gamers are slowly infiltrating the Dice Tower. We're looming, always looming, and now we're rising from the shadows, slowly making ourselves visible. You've got Liz Davidson, who does a lot of solo content for the channel. You've got myself, who does solo content for the channel. You've got Tom now, who did a solo gaming marathon. You've got Z, who's been doing live solo playthroughs. So solo is having its day in the sun right now, I would say. I'm sure that we would rather that we weren't in a position where maybe we were having to do as much solo gaming as we are, but I'm glad that there are so many great solo games out there for those of us that are doing so. Stick H, I really like the variety of the daily chats, including the host chatting with just a chat. Well, I appreciate that. I know that we all have enjoyed this. I can certainly speak for myself, but talking to the other people that have been involved, I know that they've really enjoyed it. And I know that other people are going to be coming on board and doing some chats as well. I know Mark Streed and Brian Drake and Eric Summer. So we're going to have more and more people. I don't know how much longer we're going to do them. That's obviously Tom's call. But while we are doing them, it has been a really good time. And I've enjoyed it. And I'm glad that you have as well. Do you know, Poraloo asks, do you know what games you'll be playing for the Board Game Geek Dice Tower Online Con next month, and will you be teaching any? I don't know yet, actually. I'm kind of waiting to find out what that's all about. And I mean, I have a general notion, and I just know that I'm making myself available. I know that there's going to be a way that you can schedule games, but I haven't really looked into yet, so I kind of want to find out a little bit more about that before I answer, because I don't really know. I'm happy to teach games, ones that I know, but I don't have anything scheduled yet. I don't have anything particularly in mind, but I would love to play, with anybody. I'm hoping I get to play with a bunch of people. Stephen Alfieri, I'm going to say. Who is your favorite NFL football team? Well, this is interesting because I obviously just moved to Florida, but I'm a lifelong Miami Dolphins fan. I have been for as long as I can remember, and so I'm now in home country. I'm in the land of the Miami Dolphins, and so it's been really weird. Getting used to the idea that I'm not in enemy territory, because everywhere I've lived, I've always been, surrounded by people that root for a different team. And so I still haven't quite gotten used to being in Miami Dolphins land. And I'm very excited about the new kind of era of Miami Dolphins football. We've got Tua coming on board, and so I cannot wait for that. Dead Squirrel says war games also have a lot of solo opportunities. That's what drove me to try them out more this year. Yeah, I know. And I've had so many people honestly reach out to me knowing that I'm a solo gamer and saying, hey, you really need to get on the war game bandwagon, because almost all of them, well, I don't know about that. A lot of them have solo components. Some of them, are solo only, solitaire only. So I do need to get in there. Hilmar... Oh, I feel like I want to try your last name, but I hope you know that I'm not, if I butcher it, it's not intentional. Hilmar Halbjornsson? Hilmar Halbjornsson. I hope I got close. Have you played Gloomhaven solo? I'm 20 games in a 4-player game, but wondering about solo play, even thinking about Jaws of the Lion as a solo experience. Well, I have a somewhat long and complicated history with Gloomhaven, a solo that I won't go into in all this detail, but suffice to say that I owned Gloomhaven twice and traded it twice. It just didn't work for me. I understand the appeal. I understand the intelligence of the design. I understand why people like it, but to me, it's out of my gaming lifestyle, if that makes any sense. I guess I'll elaborate really quickly. A game like Gloomhaven, I think, is one that does well if you can play it in regular succession. Maybe 2-3 games over the course of a week or two, or even more. Something that you keep out on your table and you just keep coming back to, so that you really get that sense of progression, that you can internalize the rule set so that you're not having to set it up and tear it down between every game session, because that was what I just found too arduous. It just was. I would look at it up there on the shelf and be like, I can't do it. I cannot get that thing down, set it all up for a 45-minute to an hour game session, put it all back, because I'm constantly cycling through games and playing different games, just as a result, not only of my gaming tastes, but now with the job. Although that's not fair to say, because I got rid of Gloomhaven twice before I worked for Dice Tower. So it was mostly about my gaming tastes. But I don't downplay Gloomhaven. It's popular, wildly popular for a reason. It just doesn't suit my gaming style. But Jaws of the Lion, I'm intrigued to see, because that's supposed to be more of a compact gaming experience. And so maybe that would work. I'm open-minded. I'm definitely open-minded. Okay. Another difficult name. Oh, Gwoberg Haraldsson? I'm afraid I feel like I might have messed up the first name there. But anyway, what expansion for Arcadia Quest, pets, riders, dragons, and so on do you enjoy the most? I do like pets. I think pets are probably my favorite. They're such a small little tweak to the rule set, but I just love them. I just love having the pets around. So that would be probably number one. Dragons are cool. You can even do those co-op, which is neat. Riders I like, but I've only played them maybe twice, if that. So I don't feel like I can say as much about the riders. I feel like I need to explore them a little bit more and see kind of how I feel about them. But Arcadia Quest, as I've said before, is a game I like quite a bit. You can play it solo now, although you can't really put in the expansions as of yet. I think they're working on that. Oh, this is tough, Gator. Favorite historical figure or one that you loved to teach about? There's too many. It's just like I just think about all of these people that I would teach about. I mean, it was always interesting, honestly, to teach about the Mongols, especially in my AP World class, because we actually could spend a fair amount of time on the Mongols, and I think they get so oftentimes misrepresented, or if not that, kind of taken to their lowest common denominator, if that makes sense, where they really will only focus on particular aspects of their culture when there was a lot more to any culture, right? I think oftentimes what happens, especially in a survey history course, is we tend to, because we don't have the time to go in depth into these cultures and civilizations as much as you would, like if you were taking a university course and you spent, a whole semester on one civilization or even one time period within a civilization. I mean, you can do, you can have a whole class just on Zhou period China or whatever the case may be. So it's hard for me to peg down one historical figure. I mean, I did like teaching about Genghis Khan, just because, again, there were oftentimes they would focus on one element, but there are too many. I can't. All right, because there's so many that I know I'm not going to say. Phil Lopez, not good solo, but would you consider a nice 18xx game? I'm open. I actually talked to Ambi a little bit about this. We're hoping that in some future con that we get together and maybe try out one of the introductory 18xx games. I am open to it. I've played train games, obviously. I mean, if you consider Ticket to Ride. But I mean, I've played like Cube Rails games a number of times. I've played, obviously, things like Railways of the World, which I like quite a bit, and I've played Age of Steam and things like that. I know those aren't 18xx games by any means. I've even played a Winsome game. I don't remember which Winsome game it was, but again, I think that's more towards the Cube Rails type genre. But I'm open to them. There's a couple of concerns I have with 18xx games, and they're not specific to that genre. All of them. Some of them are. The thing that's not specific to that genre is time. I tend to avoid games that are particularly lengthy, and I know some of them can run into the many, many hours, and so I've avoided some of them for that. The things that I think are specific to 18xx that have caused me to not explore them more is they do at least appear, and I know this might be it's likely coming from a place of ignorance, but they do appear to be pretty mathy and procedural, and those can be a little bit off-putting to me at times. I see the components, and I see those huge charts, and they kind of give me a visceral reaction of avoidance. Whether that's fair or not, probably not, because I'm sure I'm missing out on some good experiences. So I am open-minded. I will consider it. I don't think I've played one yet. I don't believe so. Stick H, is Jaws of Land going to be timed target exclusive? I don't know, is the short answer. I thought I heard something like that, but I'm not positive. Richard Enlow, hey Mike, since you were a former history teacher, do you have any favorite Historical games. Well, many historical games, I guess, kind of skew into the wargaming category, and I've been saying I don't play a lot of those, although a lot of games have a historical theme. Even something like Rurik, Dawn of Kiev, you can consider that to be a historical game. But the one that I think stands out to me is a game that I appreciate, and I actually do enjoy the mechanisms of the game, but it's so hard to say that you enjoy the game because it's such a heavy experience. And that would be Freedom, the Underground Railroad. Just because I think that they handle that remarkably difficult subject matter in a very, very tasteful and sensitive way. But I think if I had to go right now with a favorite, it would be Freedom right there, but probably Pax Pamir, second edition. That game is really, really terrific. And obviously has a lot of historical underpinnings involved. And so probably right now I would lean towards Pax Pamir, second edition. Now they're telling me white font on dark background. Yeah, I'm sticking with yellow. Yellow looks nice. Okay, so man, I'm still way, way back. I'm so sorry. I'm so slow. With these. Yeah, everyone's happy with yellow. Yes. Just say no to font color shaming. Well, I didn't want to be the one that said it. Aha. I just saw 5 Tribes and 7 Wonders Duel got official solo variants. Have you played them? Dean Muramoto, thank you for bringing this up. I have played 5 Tribes solo. It's really good. It's really hard. Really, really hard. But yeah, I'm thrilled that because that's one of my favorite games. I don't play it solo as often maybe as I probably should, but I do like that quite a bit. 7 Wonders Duel is just a brand new solo variant, and I have not tried it out yet. It is absolutely on my to-play list. I'd even love to get a review of that done if possible at some point after I've played it a number of times, but I have not played that one yet. That's been something that's been really, really interesting and cool to me lately, is that so many of the publishers and designers now realizing that solo gaming is what has become the default for a lot of people, at least in the interim. They are developing these solo variants, and you know, there's a danger there. I have to say there's a danger there that when you're doing something kind of on the fly, that maybe that solo variant has not been tested terribly well, and maybe isn't going to be quite as robust as some that were part of the development from the beginning. So you have to keep that as a caveat. But I don't know. When I see Bruno Cathala, Antoine Bauza, I don't know if it was just Cathala or both of them or even somebody involved with them with that. But if I see somebody that I trust as a designer putting out a solo variant, I tend to have a fair amount of faith that at least there's going to be something there. Stick H, I tried Mezzo at Gen Con last year. Seemed interesting, but I passed. Yeah, it's a crowded genre, right? That area majority, area control, minis, troops on a map. But I think that Mezzo actually distinguishes itself quite a bit. I think it does some really, really clever things. It's really, honestly, it's very easy to teach once you get past some of the vocabulary. They do use some thematic words to describe mechanisms that maybe would have been easier to just use gamer terminology. Well, it would have been easier for gamers, not for non-gamers. But be that as it may, I still think it's a pretty unique game. But look, there's too many great games out there, Stick H. If you didn't like Mezzo or didn't feel like it was special enough, there are plenty of other ones out there. Goofy Spielt. Mr. D sounds like someone you do not want to mess with. You don't want to mess with Mr. D. He's been around the top. He's been around the block a time or 20. I would say that by year 19 or 20 of teaching, they can still find ways to surprise me, students. They can still find ways to get away with things, but my bag of tricks was pretty immense at that point. So, yeah, but they still would get me. They would still get me. I put your name up there again, and I hope I may have messed it up the first time. Goldberg Haraldson. Going to play Circadian's First Light after the stream. Any strategy hints? No. You don't want strategy hints from me, trust me. That game is brain burning. It's really good, but man, that makes my head explode. It's such a huge decision space. Every single turn, it was just so many things I can do, and the branching decision paths. I don't know. I don't know that, again, I don't think I could give you any good strategy hints. Good luck. That's my strategy hint. Good luck. Terrible Gamer. Hi, Mike. Greetings from Chile. Big fan of yours. Thank you. Appreciate that. Chile, I'd love to go to Chile someday. There's almost no country you can put up here I haven't been to that I wouldn't say I'd love to go there someday, because I would love to go almost anywhere I haven't been before. Stick H, your favorite pickup and deliver game? I really, as I mentioned earlier, I really love Cinque Terre. I like Wasteland Express delivery service quite a bit. There are others. Those two kind of jump out at me right away. I'm going to try to go more quickly because I feel bad about not getting to a lot of these questions. Thomas Fredden. I have a hard time playing solo games with long setups. That's not unique to you, Tomas. A lot of people have. I actually in my solo reviews I always mention the setup and teardown because I know that could be a huge determining factor. Which solo game would you recommend where it's not much more than shuffling a deck or not much more? Well, those types of games you're generally going to be looking at card games, right? I mean, that's generally going to be the case. And so you could look at the Oniverse games. Those are usually really quick to set up. And by Oniverse games, I'm talking about these series of games. Onirim is the most well-known, but there are a number of them. Sylveon, Castellion, which I'm really not a huge fan of Castellion. You can be looking at Arion, Nautilion. All of those would work well as games where it's not just much more than shuffling a deck of cards. I always like to talk about... I was going to pull it down. Well, all right. I was afraid I was going to make a huge mess, but this is a expansion. There's a game called Port Royal, an Alexander Pfister game. This is the expansion that allows you to play it solo. This is it's a push your luck solo game, and I'm always championing that. That's really quick setup and teardown, quick to play. I love Port Royal with the expansion, so that would be a quick one I would recommend. A couple of quick ones I would recommend. Nick Wagner, yes, I've heard this. I forgot the details, but Tussie Mussy has a solo drafting thing for the solo mode. I haven't played it solo yet. I played Tussie Mussy earlier when someone asked a new game you learned on the cruise. This isn't technically correct because this was at the pre-cruise kind of party that we had, but I learned Tussie Mussy there. Eric Summerer, I think, taught me that. I played that, and so I don't know about the solo variant. I'd love to get a hold of it because I would like to try it. Elizabeth Hargrave pretty much knocking it out of the park, not just with Wingspan, but Tussie Mussy I thought was really, really good, and I'm very much looking forward to Mariposas as well. Oh, good call, Dead Squirrel. Yeah, this is another one I hadn't thought of, and actually, this is going to be good for that second question or that earlier question. Mike, I haven't heard of the Little Flower Shop game, but I enjoy the drafting in Paper Tales, and was wondering if anyone did it better. Thanks for trying to remember. Yes, that's a great solo variant. The expansion Beyond the something or other for Paper Tales, that does a really cool solo drafting mechanism as well. And it's similar, if I remember right, to what Little Flower Shop does, where you kind of got the different piles. I may be misremembering. But I forgot who was at, Tomas maybe, who was asking earlier about a quick, Paper Tales is another good one. Now, unfortunately, this is twice now that I've mentioned games where the solo variant is part of an expansion, and so I apologize for that. But both of the ones I mentioned are not terribly expensive. Port Royal, I think, is relatively inexpensive. Paper Tales is a little bit pricier, if I'm honest, than I'd like it to be for what is essentially cards. But it's a really good game, solo and multiplayer. Stick H, is Tussie Mussy available? I'm not sure. I know that it's a button shy game, and oftentimes you can find those on their website, Button Shy. I don't know if it's buttonshy.com or buttonshygames.com. I'm sure you can Google it. I do think they've started selling their games on Amazon too, though. So perhaps, I don't know if it's available. I should probably check it out myself. I don't own it, and I would like to. It says, Phil Lopez says Tussie Mussy is available. It's a fun filler. We've got Bonacore discussion in the chat. What's going on there? If you say Bonacore 3 times, I think he's going to appear. And now our segment, Mike reflects for a moment. Yeah, I do some reflection every so often. Jasmine is asking to show you the game shelf, but I'm afraid if I do that, I'm going to unplug. This microphone's in a tenuous spot. Maybe on my next chat, I'll try to set it up in such a way that I can swing things around and show off at least most of my game shelves here. So I apologize. Roy O, most complex game in your collection. Okay. I'm going to name a couple. I think Feudum is complex. That's one that I think is quite complex. So I would say that would be in the mix. Cerebria would probably be in the mix. That's quite complex, at least to my mind. Those are what I'm going to go. Pax Pamir is not complex. It's just a bit obtuse. It's a little bit difficult to wrap your mind around. I'll say for myself, it's a little bit difficult to wrap my mind around, or at least it was, just because it's just very different. It doesn't work off of like straight victory points like in the classic sense, and so I don't know if I would say that's complex necessarily, but I think that Feudum is, and I think that Cerebria, although Cerebria also is not at its core terribly complex, but there's just a lot going on. There's a lot to keep track of. Daniel Riley, what are some cool board game apps you're playing these days? Well, I don't play a lot of board game apps, honestly, but there's a couple. I have played the Raiders of the North Sea. I know I've been saying that a lot. I'm kind of going overboard, but I have been playing that. It's good. It's a fantastic app. I did get the Sagrada app. See, it's hard because app has that sound, and so I was trying to say Sagrada, but it's Sagrada. Pretty sure it's Sagrada. Anyway, the Sagrada app is really good, and I've enjoyed that quite a bit. I've been playing those recently. I did get Charterstone, but I haven't played it yet because I only have it on my phone, and I have a feeling the screen's going to be too small for that game, so I'm going to either have to try to airdrop it onto a TV screen or maybe eventually get a hold of an iPad or something and play it on an iPad. Ooh, we're getting close. We're getting close to our end time, but I think we can get another couple questions in here. Squiz1234. Mike, what is the difference between an adventure versus dungeon crawler game? That's an interesting question. When I think of adventure game, I tend to think of one that involves perhaps storytelling more, maybe more exploration. You can certainly have exploration in a dungeon crawler, but it's oftentimes a little bit, maybe a little more abstracted out. Maybe it depends. When I think of dungeon crawler, to me is a little bit more of a narrow genre than adventure. I think you can have a dungeon crawler that's an adventure game, and I think you can have an adventure game that's also a dungeon crawler. But I think adventure games are a much broader category, at least in my mind. I think that something like Tainted Grail, for example, I would consider to be an adventure game. Near and Far, I would consider to be an adventure game, but I wouldn't consider those to be dungeon crawlers. Even City of Kings, I would consider to be an adventure game versus a dungeon crawler. I don't think of that game as a dungeon crawler. I think of Masmorra as a dungeon crawler. I think of even though it's not a dungeon, I think of Cthulhu Death May Die as a dungeon crawler. It's just set in, mansions or things along those lines. Mansions of Madness, I would think of, personally, I think of as more, well, gosh, that's a bad example. I think I would call Mansions of Madness a tough one. That one straddles the line and kind of blows up all of my definitions right out of the water. So I probably shouldn't even have mentioned it, but I did. I can't take it back. I'm stuck with it. All right, let's see if we can get one more question here. Someone's asked your favorite delivery, frozen delivery pizza. I'm not going to do it. There's a lot of good ones, though. I always do this. I try to find one last question that we can end our game with. End our game. Sure, our game, also known as Daily Chat. Any good Dan stories we should know about? Yes. All right. Kiko Arceo, if your likeness could be on a promo for any game, what game would you choose? This is tough. I'm going to go one of two directions. I'm going to either go for something in the West Kingdom, North Sea range, or I'm going to go Ryan Lockett because I love both of those art styles. I'd love to see me as done by either Ryan Lockett or the Miko, but I think I'm going to pick a Ryan Lockett game. If my likeness could be on a promo for any game, I would say any of the big box Lockett games, Near and Far, Above and Below, Islebound, Ancient World. Sleeping Gods, because I'm really looking forward to that game, even though I haven't played it, obviously. That would be fantastic. So I would love to see that. One of these days, probably not going to happen, but that's okay. We can dream, can't we? Sure. Whew. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a fast hour. It's always a fast hour. As always, I probably got through, a third of the questions? Oh! Roy popped in here at the end. I want a Mike DiLisio shaped mech for Scythe. And then he corrected my name. Yeah, that would be legit. I can. But it would also be terrifying. It would be legitimately terrifying. So maybe not. I'll stick with the Ryan Lockett. Anyway, thank you so much for always I can't tell you how much I enjoy chatting with all of you, answering your questions. Thanks for coming and spending about an hour or so with me and making this day end on a much better note than it started on. And so I do appreciate that. And keep on coming. Daily chats are going to continue until Tom says otherwise. But we've all been enjoying it. So keep an eye out for that. tomorrow. All kinds of great stuff happening on the channel. I believe Tom is doing a Corner to Corner with Rado tomorrow. I think he's doing another What's Happening show. I'm trying to remember the game he's doing on What's Happening, and for the life of me, it's escaping me. But I'm sure you can find it out there, and you should check it out. If you haven't yet, those have been fun to watch. So that being said, this is my long-winded way of saying good night to everybody, and have a lovely evening, day, afternoon, wherever you are.